Hey mountain bike fans, Coach Brian Russell here with the Arundel blower. I want to welcome you to our fourth video in our foundational mountain bike series. Today we're going to cover bike and body separation from side to side. Pretty excited to be joined by one of the athletes in our Maryland League, Connor Port from MONOCACY Composite, to help us out with this lesson. So after a quick safety check, I'll be back with you to start that lesson on bike body separation side to side. Hey folks, before we get into the training, we're gonna start each video with a safety check. We wanna make sure everyone is dressed appropriately for biking as well as the weather. Everyone has a helmet on and you've got enough water on hand for the remainder of the activity. We also wanna give that bike a pretty good function check. In this case, the A, B, C, Ds. A equals air. Do I have enough air in each tire? I want to check that out. B stands for brakes. If I apply both brakes, are both of those functional and my bike's not moving anywhere? C is equal to chain, cassette, and cranks. Is everything in working condition on the bike? And then finally, D for derailleur. I want to click that derailleur a couple times and make sure everything is working properly. And then last thing, I've mentioned this before, just whatever area you're doing these skills in, really you don't need a lot of area somewhere in your backyard, but if you're at a local park, make sure that activity is good per local rules and regulations. We don't want anyone getting in trouble while they're doing this. Just make sure you're aware of your surroundings and are in a good area to do these skills. So this lesson is on bike and body separation from side to side, and this is going to get us set up really well for our next video lesson on cornering. You want to be able to lean that bike underneath you while you're going through a corner, and it's a great way to maintain balance while you're getting through that corner. But you want to be able to move that bike from side to side in a couple other situations when you're on the trail and you need to get around some obstacles. Maybe there's some tight trees, even sometimes some other riders on the course. You need to be able to get around. Leaning that bike from side to side really helps you maintain balance on the bike and leans the bike in the direction you want to travel, and that's why it's one of our foundational skills. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So let's take a look at what this bike body separation from side to side looks like. If you're following along at home, go ahead and grab your bike and stand next to that, and we'll give a quick refresh on the ready position because that's where we're going to start this skill from. And if you want a refresher of the ready position, go ahead, go back and take a look at video 2 in our series. That'll walk you through the ready position. But real quick, the ready position, bend down, elbows going out, bending in our knees, and then the bike to body separation side to side. From the ready position, we're simply going to lean the bike to the side like that. And notice how I'm hinging at the elbows. We want those elbows to move and the bike to lean out to the side. And we can do that from either side. Again, if you're following along at home, you can take that bike to the other side. I'm down in the ready position, got to bend in the knees, bending the elbows out, and I'm going to lean that bike out to the side by hinging at the elbows, and then come back when we're done with that skill. All right, let's take a look at what that looks like while we're moving. And real quick coach tip before we get into the moving demonstration. Up until this point in our video series, most of those demonstrations have been done in a cone alleyway, and we'll do the same here for the bike and body separation side to side. But we've had the athletes or the camera view that alleyway from the side. For bike body separation, because we want to see that body and bike separation from side to side, it's better if you position your athletes at the end of that cone alleyway so they can see you riding through. Same when they go to demonstrate for you, you want to be at the end of that alleyway. And if you have a lot of riders, you'll probably need to run through maybe more than twice so every rider gets a chance to see that bike body separation. So quick coach tip for you when you're trying to put this in practice for your team. And so now that I've told it and we've shown it both static and moving, why don't you ask it, what questions do you have about bike and body separation side to side?
Coach, if I'm leaning the bike to get around a corner or an obstacle, shouldn't I be turning my head to that same side? How come you didn't mention that during the skills demonstration?
Really awesome question, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in our next video on cornering. Generally, I'll remind everyone of our 3 key essential skills, one of which was head up and eyes scanning ahead. So really, your head and your eyes are pointed where you want your bike to be. We're gonna look in the direction of travel we want our bike to follow, and generally, where our eyes go, our bike follows as well. I don't want to talk about pointing your head or eyes in any particular direction when you're leaning the bike from side to side. It's where you want your bike to be. That's where your head and eyes need to be pointed. So again, great question, Connor. Thanks for asking. All right, and now for what I think everyone's favorite part of the skills instruction is the do it portion. Let's take a look at some of our athletes demonstrating the bike and body separation from side to side. Let's take a look. Okay, great job with the demonstrations, really impressed. What other questions do you have about bike and body separation from side to side?
Coach, when I was demonstrating the skill, I felt like the bike was turning a little to the right or to the left instead of staying straight. Is there anything I can do to improve that?
Hey, another great question, and something I struggle with sometimes when I'm doing bike and body separation from side to side. How do you keep the bike from lunging real sharply in one direction or the other? A couple suggestions there. One is maintain a good speed while you're doing the skill. You want to be at a moderate jogging pace. If you're too slow, sometimes you need to turn the wheel as you're leaning from one side to the other. The other idea is make sure you're hinging at the elbow when you're leaning that bike. Some athletes have a tendency to turn their shoulders, and that tends to turn the wheel. You want to hinge at the elbows again. So a couple ways to keep that bike from lunging side to side: good moderate pace, and then make sure you're hinging at the elbows. Great question, thanks for asking.
Hey folks, Connor here again from MONOCACY Composite with an idea for how to show all your athletes bike-body separation in a fun way. All you need is some cones in an area like this.
Use the cones to set up slalom lanes or obstacle courses. You don't have to keep the lanes straight either. If you have enough cones, you can make a bend to simulate cornering on the trail. Space them far enough apart so that the athletes have enough space to get comfortable with the leans, and if you're running more than one lane as a race, make sure that you have enough room in between lanes to avoid collision. This is a great drill for multiple riders. You can break riders into teams and have them compete with one another for time. And another great idea is to reduce the space in between the cones to make the slalom a little more challenging. Get creative, and you can work this into future practices as a warm-up activity while you wait for the other athletes to arrive.
Okay, last section of our video, section I like to call Improve It. We're going to have one of our athletes demonstrate bike and body separation from side to side, but do something just slightly incorrect. Let's see if we can catch what that is and think through how we'd give that athlete some positive encouragement to get that skill where it needs to be. Let's take a look. Okay, so how did the athlete do that time demonstrating bike and body separation from side to side? Did you see anything not quite correct? Well, if you caught the fact that that wheel was turning going through as opposed to hinging at the elbows and leaning the bike, you'd be correct. That's what we want to remember. This isn't turning the wheel from side to side. This is hinging at the elbow from side to side. Again, another element of being comfortable out of the saddle and letting the bike move underneath you. So again, good job to our athlete. Good job for those looking at home. Let's close out this week's video. thanks so much for joining us for this 4th video in our series on foundational mountain bike skills. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, take a look at the show notes, information about our team, our league, and the National League if you're interested in joining a mountain bike team, and encourage you to stay tuned for our next lesson on cornering. Till then, stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you next week.